Well, hello there. My name is Susan Hamilton, and you're watching OffBeat Business TV or listening to the OBBM Network podcast. I'm here today talking with Tamara Brock and Stephen Goetzmann of Brock and Goetzmann, a local personal injury firm here, because it's about time we took off a few of those myths surrounding personal injury attorneys. And I'm pretty excited to share this group with you, friends, because we know who you are. We know that 80% of American micro to small business tend to be family-owned businesses of 9 employees or less. That means you're building your business while you're raising your kids, taking care of your parents. You probably have active duty veteran, EMT, Leo in your family or workspace, and 30 to 50% of you have an addict in your family or workspace. Working today is very, very different, and we are dedicated to bringing you success in life and business information. And you know what? You guys are hurting a little bit, especially when it comes to healthcare and criminal justice. Two interesting things that we'll end up talking about over the next few moments as we talk with Tamara Brock and Stephen Goetzmann. Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
You're listening to the OffBeat Business Show, rebuilding American business influence locally, nationally, and abroad, bringing you experienced insight for a strong, influential brand and successful life in business. Here's your host, Susan Hamilton.
I just love hearing your heart for the community because a lot of people do have the wrong idea about what it means to be a personal injury attorney in Texas today. We see the ads, and I imagine that that's very, very important to be loud in this space. But we've got a lot of people who are not stepping up to defend themselves because they don't trust that they're going to get great representation or great advice. And from everything we've been talking about, I'm excited to share you with our audience because they need to know who they can trust.
Thank you, thanks. Well, and we are a small business, and that's one of the things that also appeals to us about you, and what you're doing and highlighting family businesses. I mean, we are a small 2-attorney firm. I am a personal injury attorney by choice. I say that because of the negative connotations, and we like to dispel those.
Thank you.
Whenever we can, because I used to do tax law, and then I did estate planning, and now I do personal injury and have been for years and love it. And what I really love about it is helping people. I mean, that's the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning and keeps me going. And I think I speak for Stephen too, right, when you say that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we have a personal relationship with our clients. They have our cell phones. We text back and forth. And as Tamara says, it's kind of a long-term relationship. Litigation takes a long time, and we like to take care of people, and we get to know them, and we know them after that we no longer work with them. So it's very important to us.
Yeah, we have about a 15% referral rate, which is crazy, which means you just say, if they just know somebody who's been injured or know somebody who's had an accident, they go out of their way just to say, you call Brock and Goetzmann, call Tamara or call Stephen, and they have our cell number on their phones, and that's how we get a big portion of our clients.
Well, it's very important because as we talked about in the opening of the show, and what I preface everything with is, hey, we know our audience. We understand what those pain points are, and when we can start relating business conversations to what's going on in their lives, I think we have a big opportunity here to empower people with great information, because over and over and over again, as you see, I'm sure, people are overspending or underspending dangerously in their everyday lives. When it comes to standing up for themselves, a lot of times they don't, and a lot of times they don't know how to stand up for a loved one who may have not been getting the best care that they needed. And I understand from our earlier discussions that one of the things that you're seeing so frequently are devices that are being implanted in people or being used for their medical healing, and they're in fact not doing a great job. And
right, and they're hiding it. They're hiding it. A lot of the companies are hiding how poorly they are monitored and how poorly they are regulated or made. And they're really, they are put out on the market in a guise as if they've been under this pre-market approval or been approved by the federal FDA, but really what they're basing it on is some device that was like before the laws in 1974, and they say it's substantially similar to that device. Therefore, we just can ride on that one, and we get it grandfathered in. So you might have a device like a hip or a knee or a infusion pump that might be being used that has never been tested on people. I mean, has never been subject to any scientific study, because they're just basing it on an earlier device that was okay back then in 1972 or whatever, you know, and people don't know that. So, and many doctors are kind of misled about that too, you know, healthcare providers. But
if I add to that, I mean, our government is not doing a good job of regulating these matters. But personal injury lawsuits bring that to the people's attention. I don't know if anybody's old enough like me, but I remember the Pinto. You know, Pinto, where Ford decided that they would rather spend a few dollars on lawsuits than try to save people's lives. And that was a personal injury lawyer, by the way, that brought that out. And the government didn't bring that out. And so we're talking about sort of a same situation with medical devices, that they're really are not being taken care of through the government. And so individuals will stand up and say, you know, I was hurt, and then the lawyers and the clients will go through and get the information and put it out there. So that's something that, you know, goes to our heart about what we want to do.
Yeah, you know, we don't. It goes to our heart also, because we're taking care of mom. We're taking care of dad.
Absolutely.
And we don't always know if they've had the quality care they need, because we don't always see the warning signs, right? Like you said, it's not only hidden by medical professionals, whether intentionally or not, but this is hidden by the person experiencing the discomfort.
Right. Well, and the thing is like how many, you know, you hope that nobody has more than one bad medical experience in their lives, right? So they wouldn't know how to handle it. And it's not like, ethics rules bind us. Like we can't, obviously we're, you know, even though people like to call personal injury lawyers ambulance chasers, things like that, we don't do that. I mean, we would never do that. Okay, we don't do that. But the problem too, though, is that then people don't realize maybe when they should talk to an attorney.
That is, I think, very true.
And we would rather we tell clients this all the time, and we tell clients who are referring us to other people, we say, listen, we would rather talk to 20 people and find one case than talk to 2 people and find one case. You see what I mean? We want people to be educated. We'd rather evaluate it, look at it, tell them, because then they at least know what's going on. You know, because a lot of times the doctors or the healthcare providers don't know what's going on, especially if it's a medical device. We have doctors that say, I've never seen that happen before. I didn't know that could happen. You know, and then, well, we get on board and we're like, well, this is how it happened. You know, and
it's really important to get us involved early on with some of the medical devices, because of the way the information is stored, say in a machine. It goes away like a videotape you have on a surveillance. And it also is important to get us in there to investigate and interview witnesses and try to figure out whether there's a case, or try to get the family some answers. I don't know how many times people have come to me and I said, well, what did the doctors tell you? And they said, well, the doctors threw up their hands. Well, we step in and try to get doctors to help us understand and investigate the case and determine whether there's a case or not that we can help the person with. I mean, I will say about medical malpractice, nobody's trying to take away anybody's medical license. It's just like a car accident where somebody fails to put on their blinker and runs into a car next to them. It's a medical mistake. And we're trying to help the person who unfortunately suffers the consequences of that by getting them some peace of mind, some dignity, because our society would recognize that they've been injured and that they're somebody. So that's kind of what we do.
Well, that's interesting, and that answers really the onus. That's what I was thinking is well, who's responsible for that, right? Well, I imagine a doctor would be responsible if they knew. If they knowingly did something like that.
Yeah, or even if they didn't, they can still have a mistake, but that's why you have insurance. Right. I mean, that's why we all have insurance. I mean, you know, you can go into that whole thing, and small business owners for sure have to put a lot of thought into what types of insurance they have, and, you know, if you have umbrella, you know, whatever. I mean, that's all another day. Right.
Well, no, but you're absolutely right. And in every area, you know, my background is marketing. And my first company with my sister, we had a national full service marketing agency and building building websites, we had a responsibility, and we
Yeah.
at any point you could do something wrong with that, couldn't you? That could
Right.
impact somebody's marketing. Those are very expensive issues, and there's certain things that you learn through the process, and the attitude needs to be right in our approach to
Right.
the problems that we see. So I
Right.
appreciate that out of you. I really, really do.
Well, and you know what? Something that is so fascinating to me, and I can say this more because I've been doing personal injury law for I guess about 10 years, and he's been doing it for 30 years. Okay, so when I came into this, I was so shocked that you cannot mention insurance during a court trial. So like if we have a trial in a case against a doctor, we're a nurse, or we're not really suing the nurse, we're really suing the hospital in that case, but the nurse would be the witness, we cannot mention the word insurance anywhere. So the jury, if they're sitting there listening to it, they might really think that we're trying to take that doctor's house away. Or they might really think.
That's really interesting,
Isn't
isn't
it?
it?
That's how strong the insurance lobby is in this state, and the politicians are totally affected by that. So we cannot do that. So it's an interesting thing that I was shocked to learn. Right? I mean, I remember I was like, what?
I think there's so much more we need to understand about the insurance lobby, and I know
Yeah.
that I'm not alone in that. We got a lot of questions about how we can do a better job of protecting
Right.
ourselves and know really who stands for the things that we need to deal with.
Right.
Because we don't even know a lot of times when, for instance, we talked about the elderly and our parents, but we also have kids,
And grandchildren,
right?
right.
And grandchildren. We've got
Right.
kids that are dealing and then maybe there's a disability involved. Maybe there's something where
Right.
they need a device or something to be functional for them to have a high quality of life.
Right.
And when that doesn't work and they don't have that high quality of life, it's not just hurting them; it hurts the whole family because really we just want it to get better. We just want it to
right.
be the best it can be.
Yeah, and we're a resource. So
Right.
we look at ourselves as a resource for a family that experiences some traumatic event, whether it is a birth injury, a child is born, and Stephen has a little story about that, or if you want to.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, but that's where we come in and we can help them, and we basically then we get money, we put it in a trust for them, or it gets put into a trust for them through the court, and that supplements all their care, so they can get more speech therapy if they need it, if it's been limited. And we have kids that were not thriving, and we're talking it can take 4 to 5 years for these cases. I mean, we know our clients; they're like our family. Okay.
Yeah, I imagine.
Yeah, but then now it's so great to see some of them blossom relatively within that. I mean, it's always hard to say they're not going to be normal, but what happens is that they get additional aids that help them grow at that young age when they really need it, because their brain, they can still maybe grow and learn new pathways
and we
to do
certainly
things.
believe that they can. I'm crazy idealistic. I do believe that people can heal and improve,
Yeah.
but we got to give them the best possible way for that to flourish, is what I hear you saying.
Right. Yeah.
Friends, I know that you're enjoying this conversation with Tamara Brock and Stephen Goetzmann as much as I am. We are going to hear from a few of our sponsors, and when we get back, we're going to go into some more detail. And there's some interesting things that have happened this last year over here in our communities, and I think you'll be wanting to hear it.
The American business economy is positioned as it has never been before. Professional videography is a core element for attracting a higher level of engagement with the people group you need for significant impact. Now is your time to shine. My name is Bill Brock, owner of White Rock Films, and I invite you to a powerful opportunity in the marketplace, an opportunity to draw excited people to your events, an opportunity to showcase your ideas on infrastructure, an opportunity to become known as the industry authority and enjoy the associated benefits of a strong, influential brand. Video highlights, video teaches. Video puts a resistant market at ease, and video stirs the hearts and imaginations of your allies and strategic client base. White Rock Films offers full audio, video production for businesses ready to embrace the future, handling your project with professionalism, experience, and polish unheard of in the industry. My name is Bill Brock, and White Rock Films wants your business. See us online at whiterockfilms.com.
Hi, I'm the Yes Lady with Charla A, powered by Zeal Wellness. Zeal is my nutrition beverage of choice. It is 14,000 milligrams of superfood nutrition in a powdered formula that you can just shake it and take it out the door, grab and go, have energy, vitality, reduce your stress, some incredible health benefits. It's incredibly cost effective, and it is going to change your life. I'd love for you to join me. Go to charla.zealforlife.com, charla.zealforlife.com. Join me in being healthy, focused, full of energy, tastes great. Zeal for Life.
And we're back. You're watching OffBeat Business TV or listening to the OBBM Network podcast. My name is Susan Hamilton, and we are talking with Tamara Brock and Stephen Goetzmann. And you've had some very interesting experiences here in the DFW area.
We definitely have. Mm-hmm.
Well, Linda, I think it's helpful if people would try to be in the shoes of what people face when something tragic happens in their family. Mm-hmm. We have people who come to us and tell us the story about how a young family, they go to the hospital on their way to expect their first child. They've got their nursery painted perfectly. They've got their whole family with them, and then something starts to go wrong, and the labor goes on and takes a long time, and the nurses look a little worried, and the nurses try to call the doctor, and the doctor doesn't come. The nurses get a little more worried, and the doctor still doesn't come, and the nurse says, well, the doctor has to go to an emergency C-section. And when he gets back, by the time he gets back, the baby is just barely alive when the C-section occurs. Instead of having a crying, happy baby and that wonderful feeling, I know there are parents out there, of seeing your newborn child's face for the first time, that joy turns into a tragedy. And we're here to, I guess, help people understand that that's something that they need help with, in finding out what happened and finding help for that child and for that family, because you couldn't believe what some people have to deal with. A child who's disabled is so hard, and they're so strong, and I love them. They're just great, but we like to be there for them, to help them.
When they go from this happy, what should be a happy moment, the next day after an MRI, brain scan, being told, oh, we don't know if your child will walk or read or write. We don't know, and their doctors being honest about that. They may not know. But what we like to do is to get to the bottom of what happened, which we can do. And we had just to give you an example, we had one case where we actually asked for the medical records, and there was a piece of the medical records, and we knew we didn't get all of them because there was something particular missing. So we sent a demand letter with a spoliation letter that says you better not destroy it. One of them, then we ended up getting another batch of records, and a big sticky was in the middle of the papers that said, do not give to attorneys. I'm just telling you, this was a hospital, right? The hospital had the records, and they had a big sticky, and we saved that. We never told them we have that because we ended up settling that case. But the thing is we were going to wait at trial. Well, what is this sticky? It says, do not give to attorneys, And
so families face an uphill battle in
right.
finding out what happened.
That's what families are up against, because they don't want to. They don't want to take responsibility for it.
Well, there's a lot of that out there, wouldn't you say? There's a lot of that out there where people don't want to take responsibility, and I understand that one of the things that was near to your heart and quite a success that you've experienced here recently with our criminal justice system, with our Texas prison system, because we've got a lot of concerned loved ones, especially with such a high addiction rate and some of the problems that we're seeing out there, the high incarceration rate, that we have some pretty hot prisons A lot of people are surprised to realize that most of the prisons here are not air conditioned in the state of Texas. And you know, I understand that they're in there because they've committed a crime. We get that. We all understand that they need to do that time. However, some of these things are really, really inhumane. So tell us a little bit about what you were able to experience.
Thank you, Susan. We were, you know, first of all, you know, it shouldn't be a death sentence just to go to prison.
Right.
We represented a family whose loved one died from heat exposure inside one of our Texas prisons. One of what we do as Texans, and they are not air conditioned. They were not air conditioned before this lawsuit began. A federal judge recognized after our efforts, along with other attorneys, that it was only humane, as you said, to turn on the air conditioning. It was brave for that family to bring that lawsuit. It's very difficult to sue the state. It's made very difficult. It takes a very long time. And one of the tragic things that we learned during the lawsuit is that the hog barns in these prison farms have to be kept at 78 degrees. But inside that jail cell where our client died, it was 105. And it's just a real tragedy that we don't treat people as humane as we treat hogs just because they committed a crime.
Well, it's interesting. It's an interesting space, and there's all kinds of discussion about it because, you know, we've got military servicemen overseas that are experiencing 130 degrees and hotter, and they don't get air conditioning. And a lot of them would say, well, wait a minute, why should we do more for that than the Texas prison system? I would argue that those are also choices, and when we're in this scenario, it's a choice also. But we've got people that aren't healthy and are probably on a lot of medications, and they're not in that ideal environment. So while a lot of people can survive 105, there's a large amount of people who cannot handle that.
I would say that military folks, yes, I mean, there is a choice factor there, of course. But, you know, even if they didn't know, oh, hey, I'm getting into this, their situation is optimized. And certainly if one of them was having asthma attacks, they'd probably transfer them to a different base or, you know, change their unit wherever they were stationed. Hopefully, you would think. Because like we're in the prison system, that doesn't happen.
No, they'll be locked into a room and they won't necessarily even be able to access
And this was asthma. I mean, so if someone's having an asthma attack, it triggers it, and then it just gets worse and worse, and then they die. And they weren't sentenced to death by asphyxiation due to overheating. That's not what their sentence was, right? And so and especially where we have people who are using drugs being treated as criminals too. I mean, they're in the system too. And, I'm not saying they should be treated differently than someone who committed a crime. Crime against someone else is what I mean.
Right.
But certainly, as we debate that is an important thing to realize is that they may not be in there for life. There was one guy he had 6 months left that was in the group of cases that we were involved in. It wasn't our client, but he was in that group of cases. And it's all public information, so that's why I can talk about it. But he only had 6 months left in his sentence, and he died from heat overheating.
So what did your verdict mean? How does that change the scenario? What happens now?
As far as the prison case, I think that it brought a great amount of attention. I think everybody probably saw a news story about it.
Right.
Without these people stepping forward, you wouldn't even hear a news story about it. And what you're getting is the state government actually admitting that they did something wrong and actually turning on the air conditioning. When we first started, I think it was less than 5%. A federal judge says now anybody who has a disability has got to be in an air conditioning scenario because a lot of these people are older in our prisons now.
That's true.
And they have diabetes or they have high blood pressure. A lot of them have high blood pressure, and those conditions make you more susceptible to this problem. And so from what we understand from other clients or have people in prison, they are, in addition to the air conditioning, they are allowing certain areas to be cooled down and bringing prisoners into that area for some time. But our client, 24/7, 2011, that was 110 here. And if you're 110 in South Texas, you know how that humidity
Well, it's hotter than that on the inside, oftentimes even when it's hot
no
outside.
windows,
Right.
of
And
course.
the fans are broken. That was the other thing too.
That is.
We went and we talked to other inmates. We interviewed a number of inmates and people who were involved in the system, and they would just say the fans were broken.
Fans
and
are
they wouldn't fix
broken.
them.
They've got windows this big.
Yeah, exactly.
And some of them don't even open.
And some of the metal buildings.
Right.
I mean, you can imagine.
So it's quite hellish.
But the big thing is here, this is how personal injury lawyers can change things. We can change things. We had a case in New Mexico. We represented a young girl who was a victim of school shooting in Roswell, and one of the first things that they asked us when we were working on the case was, what do you want? We said, we want metal detectors in the schools. And they were like, well, we're not going to do that. That's too expensive. Well, then there was another school shooting, sadly, very tragically in New Mexico, in another city. And guess what? They are now putting metal detectors everywhere in New Mexico schools. That changed the behavior because, those things, if they know those things will minimize, they might not completely stop it, of course. Some people can find crafty ways to get around things, but, if it will stop most kids from doing it or most people from doing it, then try it. We have a duty to do that, I think. So
It's an
that's how we can help
interesting
people.
time. It's an interesting time, isn't it? And all I can say to that, because what I've often said is, I don't have the answers to that, but you know who does have the answer to that? You have the answers to these issues. And when people are talking about these with creative ideas and realizing who it is we're serving and how we can do a better job, we start recognizing who in the community really stands for what we believe in and what our ideals are. And so I thank you so much for making it very clear in the marketplace that we've got some people here that are capable of handling every size case to the heart of the matter and really make that difference.
We do.
So Tamara and Stephen, thank you so much for being here today. Tell me a little bit about how you're connected in social media. Are you doing anything with the marketplace on social media? How can our audience find you?
Well, they can find us just by searching our names, of course, Tamara Brock and Stephen Goetzmann, but we have a website that's brockgoetzmann.com, and we are also on Facebook. Brock Goetzmann on Facebook, and those are big ways. And then we're still developing some other forms, but that's really the primary ways to reach us right now.
And that's the beauty of edited television, because we are going to have all that information for you. So if you're driving down the road and you didn't have an opportunity to write this down, and you want to know, hey, how do I spell that? I'm going to have all of that information for you, including a phone number underneath this video, underneath this audio, so that you can get what you need and recognize who is in your corner. Until next time, this is Susan Hamilton. You've been watching OffBeat Business TV or listening to the OBBM Network.
You've been listening to the OffBeat Business Show. Find our lineup, podcast, magazine, event calendar, and sponsor information, even our membership directory, all available on the OffBeat Business app or at offbeatbusiness.com. Download the OffBeat Business app today.